Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a real pleasure to have you here, and there are
Thanks.
already a lot of people joining, and it's really exciting here to be here with you, Simon, and with you, with everybody that is now listening live. Um, so today we're going to talk about haptics, UI design, UX design, hand tracking. It's gonna be a lot of stuff. So look,
Yeah.
I don't wanna take any more of this time and just give the word to Simon. Simon, why don't you tell us a little bit about you and what drove you to actually start this project
Right.
and be here with us?
Yeah. Thanks, first of all, for having me. I'm glad to be here. And yeah, so my first of all, my goal for today is to inspire and encourage fellow UI UX designers to get into XR and the XR design process, and especially with Unity and Tvori. And yeah, when you know to handle all these tools, it's super fun to explore, and the only limit is your imagination. I'll talk about my design process, my preferred tools, and if time, also about thoughts and my mindset that helped me to keep up my motivation in times of endless troubleshooting. And yeah, this field definitely needs more UI and UX designers, and now is the time. Has never been easier, and but it's still a roller coaster ride, I have to admit, and especially for designers at the beginning. And that's why I feel like we need to help, inspire, and learn from each other. After this talk, I'm gonna share some resources and my MRTK Figma template. So stay tuned to get the link. A bit about me: I'm an interaction designer who loves everything around UI, UX, emerging tech, smart home plans, and light and interior design. And yeah, I love usability to solve usability challenges, not just in front of screens, also in my everyday life. So every repetitive task that can be streamlined, I feel like can make it more efficient and create more space for new stuff. When I'm not in front of screens, I'm one wheeling and playing table tennis and stuff. And yeah, and this year I quitted my job after 7 years as co-founder and head of design to go all in to develop my passion for XR. And I was previously co-founder and head of design for digital marketing agency, and yeah, I was doing key accounting for UI and UX stuff. And yeah, besides that, I'm volunteering for association as national organizer, where we organize since 2013, I think, the World Robot Olympiad. It's a robotics championship for kids and young adults, where I also was formerly participant. Right, long story.
Yeah, and that's a
Maybe
lot of tinkering. I can imagine also that you brought into what you have,
yeah,
what some of the videos that we have seen actually online. And by the way, meanwhile, there are people saying hi from London, more
IMO.
people from
Nice to see you.
London. We have people from
Adrian, yeah, we
France,
talked to Adrian.
Munich, Germany.
Awesome.
So it is really nice to see everybody. And actually, before we start diving in, an important reminder is you guys, everybody that is joining live, please go and ask questions, right? Yours will always have, have priority over anything that we will discuss. I
Absolutely.
will cut Simon. I would say, Simon, we have a question, stop,
Do it.
right? So
Yeah.
indeed. So it is nice really to have this sort of interaction. We also have Heather from New York. Hi, Heather.
Awesome.
Uh, it is really Taiwan. Taiwan. It is super late in Taiwan. Thanks, Ashinju, for
Great.
coming. I can imagine. So it is really great to see people from Istanbul, Peru. Fantastic. So I would say that let's start diving in, right? Because the purpose of being here is also to
A
share
project,
content
right?
and and that's the purpose. So when we discussed, Simon, right, one of the idea was to kind of like split into different parts. So our first part where we will discuss a little bit about the early design process, right, and then
Mm.
how did that kind of like evolved into the project that is actually the MRTK Figma, and then into Unity, and how the haptics was introduced in all this.
Yeah.
and this was more or less the kind of flow that we wanted to follow. But again,
Yeah.
indeed, with questions from people. Maybe also worth. Oh, yeah, please, Simon.
No, yeah, I maybe your question. So should I talk a bit about the tools I use, the process from start to end,
Yeah,
and
and maybe also briefly for the people that are listening, because they might not know also why you're here. So we are, so this is a webinar. I'm Gabriele Romagnoli, head of community for Tvori. We are a startup who is the mission to actually democratize the creation and allow more people to jump in and start creating, right? Because we believe that that 3D skills shouldn't be a barrier to start creating, start ideating with people. Hence the reason why we start connecting with Simon. And so, Simon, tell us about your tool, tell us about your flow, tell us about a little about your project before we start digging into the
okay,
design part.
okay, maybe why I started prototyping in this field. I realized very at the beginning that there's a big lack of design patterns, and I also realized with my first step into with Quest 1 that there's also a big lack of feedback for basic human control mechanisms. And then I started to prototype with hardware, try out gadgets like here Vuja, like Baselet, all these haptics devices, and to see what I can do, what I can reach with low budget haptics. And actually these devices are for making music more immersive. And I found out a workflow that I can use a cable like this. It's a
Splitter,
Y
yeah.
splitter that splits a stereo signal in left and right mono signal. And right, and in Unity, I can control that I want to have on the left channel haptics and on the right channel my audio. And that's perfect for prototyping with multisensory feedback. And with that hardware setup, I started to dive into XR and with Oculus Quest 2 last year. So I started actually last November with everything. I learned how to use MRTK with documentations, and especially with also some help from YouTube tutorials from Dilma. Shout out to Dilma. Great tutorials for beginners. And yeah, right. Anything I forgot?
Well, look, there is already a question that I think it's a good bridge to what we are going to talk
Yeah,
right after. So there is a Maxim on LinkedIn that is listening to us. Does it better to use Tvori instead of Figma for higher or low level of sceneries? What do you think
right.
about this?
That plays a big role in the design process. Can you show the question again? Yeah.
Yes, here it is. Here it is.
Right. Tori is so in my design process, I used Figma pretty late because this is for mid or high fidelity UI prototyping, I would say. And Tori is especially for low and mid fidelity prototyping, where you can easily discuss in a very early stage ideas that you want to create in 3D. And Figma doesn't give me a 3D possibility. And also this collaboration possibility in ShapesXR is very valuable for the early stage, where you can easily do like something like body storming, where you fake stuff with Wizard of Oz methods. Um, and yeah,
Yeah,
it
and I
helps to
think
get
also
people
for
into it.
people, yeah, indeed, and I also think people might have. So what Simon was actually talking about was ShapesXR is our new software that is now available on Quest. So and that indeed allows people to be together in the same space and actually start creating together. So and I think that when we talk about body storming, a bit about collaboration, I think it's hard to grasp. So one of the things that we were thinking is, say, Simon, since this is kind of like crafty, why don't we try to give this a live showcase to show us what was your design and how you made your
Yeah,
decision, but let's do it directly in VR by streaming
easy.
our feed. Let's give it a shot, right?
Yeah.
So um, let's go.
So let's see if tech works.
Yeah, well, that is we are pushing the boundary here. So I mean, after all, what can go wrong? What can go wrong? You're just streaming live to more than 60 people.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
no pressure, no pressure, Simon. If something doesn't work, and actually, I think I should take more responsibility. So
Right.
for all this madness, let me go and here we go. And we are almost there, guys. We are almost there. So here is it's all live. Nobody has
I always use this little hole on my nose to check what's happening on the
yes,
screen.
yes. Actually, people say light leak. Well, I want some
Yeah.
light leak. I want to be aware of what's happening around me, even though
Yeah.
it's a little bit. And here we go. Let me share my screen.
Oh, there you are. I will mute myself 1 moment.
Yes.
Right, and turn off the volume here. Oh, that was the wrong
Here we
button.
go. Now people are seeing what we are seeing. Um, yeah. Mo, I agree. It's such a pain, but we are trying our best. Let me also mute myself. And here we are. So
Perfect.
here
Nice.
we are now in Shapes. Hello, everybody. So, Simon, why don't you guide us through some of the early decisions, some of the early steps that you took
Mm-hmm.
in order to well, actually, you're doing this with Danny, your supervisor, I believe. Sorry, you were
Yeah,
not alone.
right.
You had some
Danny
ideas you
shot.
wanted to discuss. Why
Yeah.
don't you maybe give us some example here?
Yeah, right. I don't know what is streaming, probably what you see. Yeah, right.
It's streaming
So,
what I see. Yes.
yeah. Right. For example, when we meet here on top, I first figured out how to create buttons, how buttons should react to the finger when the finger gets closer, and yeah, created basic hand UIs and where the hand is in the rest position. Then I tried to figure out some how to navigate through menus quickly and without two hands, and also without yeah, difficult interactions. And this was the second try where I created I would say a 2-dimension or 2 degree of freedom menu where you can, yeah, switch on one layer through through a level and then also easily jump to the next layer. And at the beginning, I wanted to use kind of like Discord in VR as a scenario. So I felt like the scenario could be you are in another application and you want to switch quickly to Discord to chat with your friends or to
Right.
switch your channel, whatever. So next step was, so I'm in a channel
Yeah.
overview, so I need to
Yeah.
scroll through a list.
So Simon, one thing also for people that maybe are watching this and might be a bit confused. So what you're seeing here, just in a nutshell, these are all objects that were part of the um, that are part of this library, and they were all created with some primitives and changing light and colors to the object. And then you see here what is basically let's say a stage system that allow basically to progress the user flow. So here would be stage one, stage two, the hand approaches. Now Simon is indeed on stage two. He got a laptop, throw it away because that's how we delete stuff in Shapes. Um, and then you see
Right.
how those interaction move through. I just wanted to give a little bit of a hint to people to explain them what is actually going on right now. But here we are. Yes. So please continue.
Right. Right. So Shapes has this wonderful possibility to do something like storyboarding. You can design something and then go to another frame and say what should be changed there. And that is super intuitive and easy. And that helps so much to communicate your ideas easily and to get people on board. Also, people who don't know how to use this tool get on board in, don't know, 50 minutes. and that is very, very valuable to discuss in early stage why or how where you want to place things, how things should interact, how should be the visual feedback. And here, for example, you see then the UI where you can maybe switch through world view to spectator view to don't know going through world from friends in VR. But that is not part of my prototype. Was just
Right, right, right.
spinning around or just goofing around. So maybe we can jump to the next ARM
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, by the way, what you
prototype.
guys see here, those are kind of like different shells that Simon created in order to kind of like group its own concepts, right? So now we
Right.
have in this shell there was like a bit maybe of more of an exploration, and this is what now we are going into one that is instead a little, let's say, closer or more related
Yeah.
to the project. So let's just go in there.
Yeah. Right. And here you see a little closer, or that's closer to my interactive prototype from Unity.
Right.
There I thought we could use the proprioceptive feedback from your arm. When you feel your own arm, that is so much more valuable than anything else in haptics, because there are all the senses that human
Absolutely.
provide. And this is a place that I wanted to explore more because it has much potential. And yeah, right. That's why I thought let's place a scroll interaction place there.
Hmm.
And the next concept here shows an idea how to change volume or how to mute yourself quickly with one interaction. So, for example, you press the volume button, you slide to the left, and you can decide where you release your finger, and that's the volume. Or you go over the maximum, and then it mutes your microphone. This would be a nice, quick solution to mute
Right,
yourself
right, right, right,
or
right.
to change volume.
Yeah. Sorry, a
Right.
question. When you are on stage two here, that when you reach basically your wrist, is that also, does that represent something when you go out of range on stage two when this hands is
Stage
basically,
two.
yeah.
And what is the question? When I go out of?
So right now you have the finger is basically tapping really on the wrist, let's
Yeah.
say. Does that mean also something when it's out of this range that you now
Ah,
have here?
yeah. Maybe
So,
this there can be placed also other menu symbols or interaction buttons, whatever.
right.
Um,
So,
But I realized with the first experiments in Unity that you can't place so much stuff on your arm.
right.
You need a lot of space, a lot of interaction space for colliders and all that, and
Hmm. Hmm.
to not do false inputs. And also your when you want to slide, for example, horizontally on your arm, your real bones are blocking your movement. So you have to consider a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
important to do early prototype, also to touch yourself and try things on your arm and try to figure out early what kind of problems can happen later,
Absolutely.
because it's so expensive and time consuming to go into Unity. You need to be very, very sure before you start coding that you what you're gonna code. And that there in this stage, Tory and ShapesXR helps a lot to save a lot of money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think that we see a lot of people that kind of like going, okay, let's just go in and try something out and at least agree on what we're gonna build and what our developers are gonna spend
yeah,
time on. This
yeah.
is something we have seen on our own product. Let me just give 1 second to see if there are any specific
Questions. Yeah.
questions. Um, so I see. So the fact that we are in, it doesn't mean that we will not read question. As you see, I'm here. What should be the... Okay, so there are a bunch of questions that I think they are we can tackle later.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, for the rest, guys, I mean, please go ahead and ask questions, and then some of that were asked a bit before, we'll get them back. Um, So there is Maxim who is asking, what do you think about early cust dev via ShapesXR?
Early cast dev.
Dev. Yeah, I'm just reading what.
Okay.
Maybe Maxim,
Early
can you
cast.
can you
Early,
can you explain us later what do you mean exactly with
yeah, I
cust
need more
dev,
explanation.
and then we'll answer your question.
Yeah.
So some people instead are pretty amazed by your headset, and I believe it's the eyes that kind of like
Right.
deceives the people a little. So I think
Yeah.
it's a Quest 2, right?
Yeah, it's a Quest 2 with some plastic eyes on it.
Indeed, indeed.
Right.
So let's go in for a little bit
Continue.
more before we hop in, and then we continue with the remaining topics.
Right. Should I continue with this
Yeah.
idea here?
Let's go with
So
this.
here I just showed how your eyes around your hands could look like, and also how it can look like when your hand is in a kind of rest position. Doesn't matter, and if it's turned like this or this. And yeah, it depends
Right.
what the whole menu interaction is, and when there are in MRTK there are interactable or interactions where you can say when palm up, then this should appear. When palm down, this should appear.
Right.
So um, yeah, that's it. And the next one, there was a little interaction design or button design exploration. How could it look like when my finger comes closer to the button? How can the visual feedback look like? And yeah, but this, for example, doesn't have to be in this stages with Troy Shape or with Shapes XR. You can now do it in this storyboarding animation.
Right.
That
Right.
is
Right.
that is
Right.
an old version because yeah, I used the beta from Shapes, and yeah,
Yeah,
right.
indeed.
And,
So indeed,
oh,
with this stage system that people have built, and whoa, what is this? This sounds like some wild
this is
experimentation going on here.
yeah, right. That is pretty messy. I also didn't add the right icons, but yeah, it should be a three degree of freedom menu concept where you
Hmm.
can pinch your finger and then move into one axis, and then something triggers, and you hover further, and you can go deeper into layers. And then, for example, when you go on the top one here, then there's opening a carousel with further applications,
Wow.
and you
Okay.
can lock this menu in the world to make it world lock also when your hand is not pinching, or you can edit what is in this circles, and you by drag and drop things. Yeah, actually, yeah, that this is one concept from the design process, but I didn't follow it late for
Hmm.
future concepts because I thought my arm with the proprioceptive feedback
Yeah,
has
was your core focus?
much
Hmm.
more
Hmm.
potential, so I focused
Right.
on
Right.
that.
May I ask you?
And right,
Actually, I do have a question here. So I see here
yeah.
that there is some.
Oh,
May I for a second?
oh.
Yeah, undo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just make a duplicate of this. I just
Hmm.
wanna do one thing here, because so here you have this button. How have you created this button actually?
With the UI, I don't know if you can show the menu.
Yeah.
When you open the menu in this primitives on
Right.
UI, I selected. It was a bit tricky, to be honest. I think it was one of these. One of these. No, not this one. It's been a long time when I used it. When I created it, was it this one?
Because
No.
look like there is some sort of gradient in.
Yeah, that is the magic in this type. And when you select the UI category, there are
Yeah.
several primitives. And when you add when you go to coloring, additive light, additive
Yeah.
material, yeah, right. And then you add this, then it gets this gradient. And I liked it pretty much
Ah,
for
look, man, I didn't even know. Look, this is crazy. Okay,
yeah,
okay. This
and
is okay.
yeah,
Nice.
and
So I
to
think it might be
create
this
a
then.
circle.
Let me add this. Was not this one. Which one was this? So
The circle. I'm searching for the circle. But anyways, yeah, there will be the circle somewhere. I think it was, maybe it was
Tiffany,
from a
you
previous version. I don't know. Oh,
okay? Let me
circle.
later. I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's it looks very nice. So let's tie it up. Let's select object. Let's
Hmm.
throw them
And
away now. I don't want
let's
to
delete
ruin.
this.
I don't want to ruin your your space.
No worries, I duplicated it. So you can
Okay,
play
okay.
around and
So, but
destroy
that's interesting. I
everything.
mean, in a way that you have kind of like explore this with other with also your supervisor, and then went to some conclusion. Okay, should we focus on this? Should we focus on that? But at
Yeah.
least that decision was made with some kind of like high level understanding. What are we gonna work on? Right, and
Mm-hmm.
then you wouldn't okay, let's try a little bit of that, let's try a little bit of that, without having sometimes a clear understanding between each other about
Yeah.
what the project is going to somehow look like. And this, I
Yeah.
think, it's the first important step is try to find a tool that you can use to communicate
Right.
and gets the message across
Yeah. As early as
and after,
possible.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So so that is the first part of the design process. So why don't we
Hmm.
what is
The next
on,
step.
yeah, so while we go, yeah, I'll stop streaming,
Yeah.
and then we go back in the real world
Right.
and answer some question. um, there is a lot of stuff going on, so let's just do that. Let's just do that. I'm gonna
Maybe
close
also,
here.
maybe I can
Yeah.
also add some recommendations for the process. It helps a lot, especially for to save ideas, to save visual stuff. When you record your screen with a GIF capture tool like GIFbox or like ShareX for Windows, and then I put everything on Miro, also the Miro online tool for design thinking stuff. And there I have all my ideas together, and also the stuff from Tori, to yeah, there the final decision is made to continue and to go into the interactive prototype at the end.
Right. So, look, I do have a question, and I think it's really relevant for this stage now that we are talking. How do you start your design process? Do you begin
Right.
with hand sketches of your ideas
Right.
on how users should
Yeah.
ideally interact?
Yeah. Maybe I can show you some stuff. One moment. Maybe I can share my
By the way, everybody,
screen.
welcome everybody that joined. Hi, Nicole. It's a pleasure to have you. We also have a bunch of questions from other people. We are going to try to cover those
Right.
as soon as possible. I'm going to add now to the streaming your screen.
Perfect.
Here we go.
So at the beginning, I start with sketches. You can use Procreate, whatever, on iPad, or also directly sketch in Miro. It's absolutely fine. And I collect all my sketches in Notion. It doesn't have to look good. Just when you have something in mind, sketch it. And I just use a hand as template. I always copy paste it, and then to make it as fast as possible. And afterwards, yeah, collect. One moment, maybe I can show you. Where do I have it? I have it. My design process is somewhere. Let's go into it.
Look,
Okay,
Simon, we do have a lot of questions, so I think
yeah,
we can just go through and because Nicole, for example, is asking to um, with the different questions. For example, how do we support people with one arm or hand? I think this is a very relevant question, right? I
yeah,
mean, have you
absolutely.
thought about people that might have limitation
Yeah,
in this case?
yeah. In my master thesis, that was also part of the best practices from Microsoft, that people who are maybe busy with one hand, maybe not capable to use the other hand, for them, it's very important to be able to control things, menus, whatever, with one hand. And that's why I also created this quick interaction menu stuff where you can just use one hand.
Right.
And yeah, but with my arm thing, you can't use, you can't make advantage of one hand interactions. But I still felt like I want to explore
No, but
proprioceptive
I mean,
feedback.
absolutely. So that I think that shouldn't stop researching, shouldn't stop exploration in any way.
Yeah,
I think it's important that having that in mind and thinking about variables of how could that be tackled in other way. That's certainly
yeah,
one way. Um, there
mm,
is another question
yeah.
from, yeah, please. No, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I want to maybe first the question, and then I talk a bit about the where I start, and then the step by step to go through ideation, prototyping, and stuff.
Right,
Yeah.
right, sure. Okay, the next question: what is your take on voice interaction for VR rather than controller or gesture-based UI?
So in general, I don't like voice interaction because there's so many false inputs, and I use for smart home my Siri, and right, and there even with this, there are also so many false inputs, and it's annoying when you have to say something again, and I need fast interaction. So I would say it could be as add-on, but it yeah I for the moment I don't have use cases where I efficiently use voice inputs. um, yeah, because everything else is faster, and it's very beneficial for people who can't use hands. That should so I think your menu should support voice input, but I don't like it as main input variation.
Right, right, right.
I prefer gestures, but also gestures in a lot of best practice guides. Gestures, or they say that gestures should be reduced to a very low level. So, for example, Oculus has just this gesture to get back to your home menu and not more. And because it's hard to learn new gestures, new stuff. All this VR stuff is already too much, and learning so many gestures and new vocabulary is too much for handling in an application and to go into it. And so keep your gestures library low is the recommendation.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I believe it. So, look, I don't want to interrupt. Why don't you go maybe as you were
Yeah.
mentioning, show some of your of that. I think people are gonna really love it. And there is someone who is asking, who is begging, share your Notion content about XR design process, please.
Yeah. Actually, at the end of the call, I will share a lot of Notion papers, sheets, whatever. And yeah, I will talk later about it.
Okay, so go ahead.
Right. So to the ideation process, where do I start? First, I start with writing down my design challenge. So as a how might we question, how might we solve this and this problem? That I am into this problem with my whole mindset, and also describe. Maybe I can look here on my Mac. Also describe your environment, the context, especially when you're working with other people's, because then you are all on the same page, and yeah, make it as clear as possible for everyone. And my second step is collect best practices and inspirations as much as possible for your field from Twitter, from LinkedIn, from Dribble, Pinterest, and yeah, to visualize first ideas in mind that you get with your visual mind into it. And then use ideation methods like brainwriting, sketching, storyboarding with not with Figma, with ShapesXR, and then categorize your stuff with affinity diagrams to create early decisions, and yeah, filter out bad ideas or filter out ideas that should be saved on the idea parking lot. And then choose and discuss your favorite ideas and sketch them as storyboards with your iPad, whatever, on paper, and photograph it, put it on Miro that you can discuss it. And yeah, don't lose in details. It doesn't matter. The scribbles are just there to discuss them, discuss ideas. And yeah, then when you have everything there, and you decided for an idea, yeah, I create a list of interactions. I categorize them in stages and create a user flow to visualize each stage, what happens in detail, and with feedback and everything. So I created kind of a, one moment. It's here. Here's my Notion, not my Notion, my Miro board. Here, for example, open menu, what interactions are there, selecting, manipulating, close menu, and what kind of interactions are haptic relevant for short haptic, for long haptic. And yeah, I created a new kind of user flow. So I had to adapt previous methods from the design thinking process to adapt it for my needs. And I can encourage everyone to do that because it's a very new field, and yeah, you need to adapt things. So here, for example, I created stages for open, select, manipulate, and close, and where the menu is locked to, for example, to my hand or to the world or in my space. What is the actual haptic pattern in this step? What is the actual audio file in this step? So when you fill in everything, you get a very good overview for every stakeholder in your design process. What happens in each step without actually coding anything, without actually designing high fidelity stuff. So yeah, all this helps to prepare everything for coding, that when you start coding, you get just a to-do list, what you actually have to make interactive. And here, for example, I added this is directly drawn in Miro, added some stuff, some scribbles, where I scribbled the interaction, one-handed,
Right.
two-handed.
And it's fascinating actually, because I mean those are really nice sketches, and I think that you could do as fast
Not
right now
really.
in shapes with
Yeah,
with kind of like the camera tool, right? I mean, right now we have this
yeah,
viewpoint that you can put in the scene, and you can
yeah,
take picture and actually
yeah.
just show it. So
That's
I think
cool.
that it's fascinating to get people
Yeah,
around, and okay, this is the first thing, then that's the second thing, that's the third thing, and do it
yeah,
together in space. I think it's gonna be really helpful. So yeah, indeed, I see those. Those are probably something that you took maybe with the in-game capture,
right.
with the headset, right? And
Yeah,
now we have a
yeah,
much handier camera.
yeah. No, I'm capturing stuff with Oculus Mirror. It's
Right.
installed with Oculus Link, so you can transfer
Mhm.
it on your PC, or you can also use what is called here SideQuest. SideQuest has
Right. Yeah.
also a stream function.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and
So, Simon,
yeah,
time is passing very rapidly.
sure.
So, and the reason is then to then move to the next step. So let's
Yeah,
say that you have come up with something that somehow works, right?
yeah,
Um, and maybe before we go into what I would like to maybe very quickly, we have talked about shapes. So I encourage everybody that actually would like to try it out to just scan the QR codes. Actually,
right.
you can scan the QR code, get it directly on your Quest, and then by the end of the talk, even now, sure, but I think you don't want to miss what we're gonna to keep talking. But still, go in there, download it, and start playing. Invite others to your co-creation sessions. So
Right.
go ahead. But
Yeah.
after that, after you have managed to actually communicate and have and ideate with others, and what's next,
Next,
right? Or at
I
least it's also like, sorry, what was
yeah,
next for you, right?
yeah. Yeah, I created these kind of user flows in Shapes. So very in detail, the whole user flow. And also I created some early stage micro animations. I think you saw it on LinkedIn, where you see the scroll interaction, what happens, how's the movement of every button. So to get the feeling of how things should move, because in Unity you have to you have to decide every movement of every 3D element. And so for that, I used Tori for PC. Um, and yeah, but this is a bit more complicated, but still pretty easy for detailed animations when you compare it to After Effects or to
Mhm.
Blender and Cinema 4D to create 3D stuff. So yeah, that was where I jumped into mid fidelity prototyping. and afterwards, when I know my flow, I know how the animations should look like. I go into UI concept, UI design with Figma. Then Figma is a pretty powerful tool to easily, um, yeah, drag and drop stuff to do wireframing, kind of, to place icons, text, and to get a sense what should, or you fill your Tory shape boxes with content. And because in Unity you will need this later. And so maybe I can also show briefly how Figma looks like. I took the MRTK template that is free, provided from Microsoft, and it's pretty powerful, and you can edit everything. But be sure what you edit in Figma isn't edited in Unity, so you have to edit everything on your own. So if me, for example, I changed round corners, changed a bit colors, added my own icons and everything, and created uh, scroll interactions on my arm. And here I did some UI experiments. How should the scroll thing interact to give the right feedback? And right, did some tests with switch buttons also in Unity, and I realized it's not good to have switch buttons on your arm because of your bones and everything. Yeah, and anyways, then when I got my Figma UI, I export every icons into CVG, and then the magic begins in Unity. And I start prototyping in Unity. I installed MRTK. I first worked with Quest 2. It works perfectly with Quest 2, and MRTK really is a gift from Microsoft. It's a gift for the XR industry, and it's at the beginning still difficult to understand everything interactables, but they documented everything very understandable on their website, and there is also a little community building up, and there are Slack channels where you can also ask questions with Holo developers. And the nice thing is you can develop for Quest, and I transferred everything to HoloLens before a week, and it works almost seamlessly. I had to install some further environment SDK stuff, but I could use everything what I coded with MRTK on MR. And I think in the future it will be very important to focus also on OpenXR, because when you know to code for with MRTK in Unity and with OpenXR, then basically you can publish your application to every device. And it's important to learn a future-proof coding language or framework, because this OpenXR is the future, as you saw maybe in the latest news with Facebook and Microsoft are focusing on that. And MRTK supports also OpenXR. Me, I didn't jump on that train yet because I'm also new for MRTK and Unity, but it will be a topic, and we'll also jump into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should also ask his questions, right? So, like, at what point do you want to stop? So, I mean, in a sense, there should be kind of like an expertise that is in the ideation, in the design, in the communication. And then there is the developers, right? The software developers that are going to develop the final product.
Yeah.
So the point is also, if you feel like, okay, that's the way to go, people should go and should keep learning Unity. But there is also like, and of course there is not a hard cut, right? There is a blurred line, depends on the project, depends on your skill, depends where you work, depends what it is. Maybe, how do you perceive that throughout this journey, from moving from a sketch to something that is somehow a prototype, right? It's a working prototype of what you have built. Where would you stop, or what would you give? How would you help people to assess where to stop or where to continue?
So maybe it's not exactly the answer to your question, but But when you start with MRTK and Unity, you don't have to code expert, or when you are prototyping, you don't have to write expert code, because as prototyper and UI designer, you need this creative mind, and you need to be able to communicate your idea and to show that it's working with an interactive prototype. And that's very important, that you know how to work with Unity to show a proof, a minimal viable product
Right.
of your idea. And but this prototype doesn't have to be super clean code. It's for the next step is that the real software developers will then wrap up everything and design it from scratch and clean. And your part as I say UI, or I name it UI UX prototyper, is just to give them a path or a roadmap and a visual and everything that is so close to the final result that they don't have to do any design decisions
Right.
anymore. And
Yeah, they just know what to build, and that's
right,
it.
right,
I'm not gonna
right.
coming back, but that
Yeah,
shouldn't be like that. That's you
yeah,
shouldn't go to that part when you
yeah,
click on this button. Those are not
yeah.
questions that should come. Yeah.
It's also, I think, absolutely okay if you combine it a bit with Wizard of Oz and you say this should happen then, or you add a bit After Effects. But in general, the interaction design should be should the prototype should work, and you should be able to try it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And also it helps you to explore and to experiment and to do further design decisions. And
Simon,
right,
I do
so
have a couple of questions. So
yeah,
there is the secret asking, is this going to be available? Yes, later it's going to be
yeah,
available. Someone is going to find a way to share it. But there is another question on any tips on how you promote your work and showcase
hmm,
your portfolio for
yeah,
XR interaction designer.
yeah, yeah. It's very, very important that you. I realized that also for me, it was always. I think I started before half a year. Yeah, between half a year or a year, I started with LinkedIn posts, and I thought I have to share stuff because I feel like nobody knows actually who I am, what I do, and in this new field could be interesting, and maybe there are others to connect. And actually, all that happens in the community build up. I got to know so many people, and so many resources that are there in the community, and so so it's very important to share your progress. Don't be too strict to yourself. Don't be perfectionists, because at the end, people scroll through it. They see 3 seconds and they don't judge it. They see it, they say, "Is it interesting? Cool." They read your text and then scroll further, and it's not worth the time to polish your stuff. And so I had the same trouble as designer. You always have the trouble with portfolio, showing your work and everything, and uh, fear of judging
Yeah,
and
I think that there
whatever.
are two layers, right? I mean, you certainly
Yeah,
want to have a website or something showing your portfolio, your process, and that is certainly valuable. And that is
yeah,
also that level of sharing engagement that you can do with something that is super quick. Maybe it's built and recorded in 5 or 6 minutes, patched together to create that
yeah,
1 minute clip that you
yeah,
can show. And I mean, I remember last week, how long was the video that went almost viral? Like 700 likes. I don't know
yeah,
how many it
yeah,
got. But the point is that it's about showing something that is
yeah,
quick and works and get people engaged,
yeah. That
because
is understandable.
otherwise,
Yeah,
right, and there is a nice story behind, and then maybe it's
yeah,
once a week.
yeah,
So I think having also a quick tool that allow you to create that, if it is a Figma, if it is
yeah,
ShapesXR with some animated concepts, I think it all works. The important is
yeah.
communicate your idea and share it, and don't be too precious, as Simon you said.
Really,
This is
really,
absolutely
that's
the
super
top.
important. And we all have the same problem, and I'm still struggling with that. But I always realize that it's not worth the overthinking, and just post your stuff and do it early, and do and record your work, and try to create a easy to use workflow for yourself that you can just that you know the easiest, fastest way to record stuff, because that's the annoying part that you actually don't want to do. It's not part of the work. But when you have a streamlined process, it doesn't annoy you in the future. And yeah, for example, also creating GIFs. There's a platform called ezgif.com.
GIF, yeah.
Very, very valuable. And you can always, yeah, create your GIFs and convert them and whatever. So yeah, collect all your tools, record stuff, and publish it, because yeah, people need to know
if
it.
you're doing it with ShapesXR, tag me or tag Tori, then you will be sure that we repost and share. And at any time, like we have done also today with Simon, it was a pleasure to get involved like very early in the process, right? We started chatting. And I mean, it's always a pleasure to share and stay updated with what people are building besides our own product, right? So that's nothing to do. That is also one important thing. That's why we want to move forward. And this is actually a good point. Can you bring us forward? So what happened then? You start working in Unity, and then how did that go? What were some of your learnings?
That's
Here we go. Here we go. So
someone
who left is gonna regret this, because if a live streaming of a HoloLens.
That would be now a live streaming of HoloLens, and gonna show you my environment with Unity. And
that's
a moment, I will see if it's working. Let's reload. So it's directly transfer the video over my USB-C cable. And okay, so now you see what I see.
We do. It's all good.
Let's go into Unity and start the project. I saw on your video on LinkedIn that there's a little offset, so you don't actually see what. So when I touch my arm, so let's start here. When I touch my arm,
there is a half a second or 1 second delay.
Not just the delay, but also offset of the camera.
Right.
Okay. For example, now I see the scroll bar is directly on my arm, but you see it probably a bit beside it. Let's check. I need to add my haptics. Okay, let's pause it a bit. I want to add haptics. So now I show you through this cam, right? I'm adding my sender, and I connect it to the side outputs. I start to wear my haptic display. Let's close that.
So for everybody that is listening in, also maybe while Simon set this up, there is a chance that we might get overtime. We usually don't do it, but I think that for everybody that wants to stay, keep watching and sharing and asking questions, we're gonna stick a little longer because it's a bit of difference. So go ahead, Simon, show us.
A lot of stuff to show, so let's see if I did it right. Receiving.
By the way, I mean, I'm not mentioning all the compliments or that this is amazing, this is incredible. We have Inga said this time, this is incredible, our demo, this demo live, and there is so much. Thank you, this is incredible. How can we get the stuff? I am just not telling you all this, but there is a lot of love. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. There. So here, for example, so this shouldn't be visible, but this is my calibration thing, because I can't code. Okay, let's start it again. It's always buggy, but when you prototype, and always be ready for bugginess.
Right. But Nate, meanwhile, is asking what kind of haptic device is he using?
It's baselit from Lowfeld. So. A moment. Actually, this thing is to to listen to music, to make it more immersive. But I use it for VR, and it absolutely works. So it costs €100. I don't know if they sell it on the market. I don't think so, but you can ask them via email. Maybe they are happy to still provide some of them. So now it works. You see my hands with some hand joints.
Right.
That's the debug mode. When I press on this button, it calibrates my arm. And yeah, and then I have this thing. Right. I don't know if you hear it. There are two sounds. Maybe you hear it. So when I'm scrolling, it plays a haptic sound on my left ear and or not on my left ear, on haptic on my haptics device, and on my headphones it plays the audio. And for example, now I don't know if you hear it, but this is the sound, the actual sound, how you should
Uh,
hear it.
Sam, can you do it a second for a little, and everybody stays quiet, me included, and you as well. Try to do it again so that.
Maybe there's also. Let's check if this helps. Do you hear it? Or is it not transferring the audio? Maybe it's not transferring the audio. Or I turn it up here. Do you hear something?
Yes.
Now I have feedback. Whoa! One moment. Yeah, that's always the trouble of calls and stuff. Yeah, anyways, so there's a rumble sound and a normal actual sound, and always when it passes a notch, I feel it on my wristband here, and that is actually pretty powerful. And I feel like when I compare HoloLens to Oculus Quest, HoloLens gives you much more this emotional feeling that I don't know, it's happening in front of you and it feels so natural, and it doesn't have this display close to your eyes. I don't know how to explain this feeling, but I like HoloLens much more, and also the potential of AR is much higher than VR, in my opinion.
So maybe I do have a question. What do you
Yeah.
think is? I mean, I believe there is, right? But you that you are experiencing and you built it. What would you think is right now the added value of having that feedback on your wrist when you're moving that?
I So the human brain needs to know when things happen to feel secure, to be faster in with interactions. And when you don't have this haptic feedback, it feels like something is muted. You feel like a ghost, and you don't know if the system got your press, or
Input.
when it actually got your press. And this haptic feedback uh, reminds your brain maybe of your real experience when you touch something, when you
Right.
touch it, you get this feeling, and you know your finger is here. And in VR and AR, this is a big problem, and you don't know when you are actually here with your finger.
Right.
And this little bit of haptics gives you this feeling. And in my
Okay.
opinion, the goal of this thing is not to simulate real haptics. The goal is just to give your feedback mechanisms one more feedback modal.
Right.
So it's multimodal, and this helps to make interactions faster, creates a bit more immersion, and yeah, makes the whole application more natural and gives it
Right.
natural touch and intuitive. Yeah, that's
Nicole,
why
indeed,
I'm.
as many others says, yeah, Optic indeed are so important. And one
Yeah.
question, for example, is scrolling or tapping. Do they provide different haptics? Do you have the ability to kind of like change the feedback in your sense?
Yeah, maybe I can show you directly in Unity where the magic happens. So I created a little script where you can add your. So here, one moment, I place this away. um,
Menu, go away.
yeah. Here, for example, I can add a sound, so a MP3 or a WAV file that I created in Syntax, for example, or into Haptics. That's also a nice company who I collaborated at the beginning. They are creating also a haptic design tool. Yeah, I don't have an example at the moment, but I heard that they are publishing in September a new version, so stay tuned for that.
Okay.
But yeah, Syntax is an open source tool where you can say how much the frequency should be, how the duration should look like. And actually, I don't know about all these oscillator envelope stuff. I figured out that I just need frequency and the duration and the pitch. So this whole syntax thing is open source, and there's an Unity plugin where you can grab all these values from this GUI. And for example, here I can, it's not well coded in the inspector here, but the X value, for example, is the frequency, the Y value is the duration of the haptic vibration, and the Z value is the pitch. And when I want a lower frequency, when it should be heavier, like strong bass, I say it should be 80, frequency of 80. And I want a longer duration, that it should vibrate long, or it should be very, very short, then I
Right.
say zero, whatever. And I can code when I'm scrolling through that from the highest point of the scrolling position and the lowest point of the position, it should have a specific pitch that you get a when you scroll through something, you need change. You need to know if you are scrolling up or down, and
Right, right,
therefore
right, right, right. No,
and
absolutely. I mean,
therefore
it's fascinating if you think about once you have, let's say, a playground, right? Because what you have built is technically a playground. So you can,
yeah
now that you have it set in place, uh, play with the parameters and see, okay, what about the action of pushing against
yeah
scrolling? What kind of optics and how, for example, different users could would react to that, right?
yeah
What's their feedback? You put it in on
yeah
10 people, 20 people,
yeah
and then you could gather valuable data to actually then indeed start making conscious decision about what people perceive
yeah
as a certain feedback, without different kinds.
mhm,
It's really interesting to see this.
yeah exactly. And right, so this whole script is actually, like you said, my playground where I can change the parameters, how the low pitch should sound like, how the highest pitch should sound like. And yeah, it's not no perfect code, like I said, but I know how to use it, and it works for prototyping. And right, and yeah, this, for example, is my HUD where I can say how I want to position, for example, this thing on my arm. When
Mhm.
I change the Y position, I can move it further down, or I can
Right, I
move it
see live
to
moving.
like
Yes, yes.
this on the arm. Or and this is so awesome with HoloLens. You can develop and prototype live. That is actually pretty cutting
And
edge.
this is what also pretty exciting, because now that with Oculus they have got this API for pass through. I
Yeah,
mean, some of
yeah,
those
right,
things could actually take place
right.
within a Quest, for example, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
right. That is so. My bias advice would be buy a Oculus Quest with a link cable. That's very important. And right.
right, right,
I also will share my links with my setup, what I bought when I bought all my Quest setup, and what was helpful and what was not. And yeah, this will be
right.
all shared later in the link that I will share with
Indeed,
you.
indeed. So for everybody, you're gonna receive an email,
No,
and
actually,
right.
it will be a Telegram invite because I plan to create a community. I didn't tell you, Gabriel. I plan to create
Surprise!
a
It's good.
I plan to create a Telegram blog with valuable links and a chat behind it where the XR creator community can share your links, share your thoughts, discussions,
Fantastic.
and also ask questions when you have problems, when you are in a deep hole of troubleshooting and need help, and especially with MRTK and stuff. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's where
So
I'm.
that,
Yeah,
to then you're gonna receive an email, and on that email there's gonna be
yeah,
a Telegram
yeah,
invite that you can use then to join. That's how
right,
it's. So
right.
we do have right now sometimes, right? I mean, we are over time, it doesn't matter. And this would be the good moment to have the last 10 minutes of Q&A if you have something. So let me go back and I can try to fetch some of the questions that were asked. Um, Let me see. Let me see.
In the meantime, I'm going to show some MRTK examples.
Oh yeah. I'll re-put you back in. Yeah, go ahead. Yes. So you're
no
still
voice. I'm asking for your question. I'm waiting for your questions, and you can just enjoy.
So people then are gonna be distracted. They're not gonna ask questions. We're gonna keep watching.
Okay, then ask a question.
No. I'm kidding. Go ahead. Okay. So guys, so we have discussed about voice interaction, and so there is a question from Mo that is asking, how do you deal with collision clashing with hand tracking? Current hand tracking is not very well in detecting overlapped hands or fingers. Did you have any problem in your project? How did you tackle it?
You mean collision of hands, as when my hands are colliding?
Yes. Yeah. So your hands are overlapping, or because I can imagine also your finger close to your arm. Did you have any problem with that?
Yeah. That is, I'm working close to my hand, so that's a thing where you can get into problems. But I figured out that actually until, I don't know, here, you see it, it doesn't have problems. So I can interact until here with my whole arm. And when I go upper there you see the hand tracking, fucks up. But with Oculus Quest, I was able to add a button here. So when you touch you see the hand tracking works actually.
Right.
When I touch my thumb here, so there are some. What I want to say, there are some sweet spots that you can use for your benefits, or where you can benefit from, and this just explore the boundaries, and for sure there will be fail inputs, but for example here it works pretty reliable. And I also added here a switch button, and was pretty nice actually, but it felt like there's a Pflaster in German. I don't know how it's in German. In
Plaster,
English,
I think.
Yeah, it looked just, the UI was not nice. So I said okay, I don't continue here. I added the button here. So here's already the home button from HoloLens. So don't do anything in this region, but you can do something in this region. And I also added some button here, and that was actually pretty good. So I had a switch button here, but also this felt pretty. There are too many. I had too many false inputs, errors, or it wasn't too reliable. Maybe also because of my prototype coding, but so I said to myself, I will focus on my arm, that there's just one scroll area and not too much happening around. Yeah, because there happens too much false inputs, and this scrolling works pretty well in general. When your arm tracking is good, then
So maybe we are heading towards the end, the end. Maybe if anybody has any other question, please ask. Otherwise, indeed, you're going to receive a link with Telegram, so that way you can actually connect directly with Simon. So the other question I had was, so if there is like a closing advice that you would give to people that are approaching this, right? What would that be?
Actually, I took time yesterday and wrote down a big list of thoughts and mindset that helped me in this time. Maybe I turn off the HoloLens. Let's talk a bit about that. I gonna share, or I already shared that in the Telegram group. But my MacBook is now. Right, some best practices and thoughts from my side. When you start your shift from UX UI designer to Unity, you probably start with the fear of coding, with the fear of Unity. You hate user interface of Unity. Um, you don't want to go into that because you feel like it's overwhelming you. Uh, you are not made for this. But actually, it's not true. When you want something badly enough, you get it. And Unity is also just based on logic, and everything makes sense when you get deeper into it. And yeah, so maybe start at the beginning. Have a clear vision what you want to accomplish, and define your what bothers you most, what you really want to solve and or explore. Like Simon Sinek said, define your why, because you will need this later to feed your passion, your willpower, and later in the process, it keeps your motivation high in deep troubleshooting holes. And that's really important, and that you know what you want to do and why you want to do it, and you want to solve something. um, yeah, and there will be definitely moments where you feel depressed, where you feel like you're not made for that, this tired of and exhausted of troubleshooting. You tried everything, and for fuck's sake, you don't find a solution. And most of the time, it's like that. Most of the time, the solution is around the corner, and just one more googling away, and or just just have sometimes to step back, look on the big picture, go to sleep. Next morning, you will find the solution. And in this moment, it's very crucial to have your why, that you know you want to continue. You will find a solution, and yeah. And it's very important to connect with like-minded people, experts that inspire you to keep on with what you're doing. Join Slack, Discord channels, and in emergency cases, you can reach out to them. Also, there's Telegram chats for that. And yeah, but always respect the time of others. So don't spam, and don't ask things that you can easily find on Google. Yeah, and when I was in moments where troubleshooting felt like a never-ending process, it helped me a lot, especially at the beginning as designer. You feel you want things to be like Figma, and Figma or ShapesXR, you need 15 minutes to get to or Figma a bit more, but it's very easy to jump on this, but you can't compare it with Unity. Really, it's
But of course, I
different.
mean, it's a different process. It's a different
Yeah,
need, right? I mean, it's completely different. So I think that
yeah,
very often people kind of like sets also the thing with a bit unrealistic, or maybe like different expectation, right?
yeah,
So I think that there are production tool
yeah,
and there
yeah,
are prototyping tool. Of course, you can do some
yeah,
prototyping in Unity, but
yeah.
it is something that is more
It's
closer in the amount of effort that you have to put
yeah,
into to actually
yeah.
create something.
It's
And
actually,
and
yeah, it's wasting of time to go too early into Unity. And but it's not wasting of time when you are in a sandbox mode where you want to explore and just try around and goof around. There, it's important to just do it and don't overthink your concept. But yeah, when you are in yeah, you need a bit to readjust your expectations when you go into that. And yeah, so it helped me in this dark moments to say myself, this problem is part of the learning process, and I'm learning with each mistake. And nobody defines how long or short something has to be or something is. So it's just me as designer, based on my previous experiences with spoiled with Figma, and these expectations don't match with the actual new learning.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm learning something.
And there is another point from Nicole mentioning the problem with Figma is that the UI tends to look flat because it's made for web UI. And it does make sense. You need Unity, Unreal, or other 3D tools to describe that depth. But also, I think it's not just describe, but also start thinking
Yeah,
in depth, right? Because
absolutely,
otherwise, it is
absolutely.
very tricky to
Yeah,
think in depth in 3D when you are
yeah,
on a 2D screen.
yeah,
It's just a
yeah,
Hollywood thing for the
yeah.
comments.
Luckily, MRTK tried to simulate a bit the 3D look-alike, but yeah, it will be never enough to stay on Figma. I realized that when I designed every little animation with Troy on PC, and there I realized 3D is a new dimension, and you need to think in a new dimension, and you have to consider much more than on 2D. It's just a frame here, and in 3D you need to consider the whole space, the whole environment, what happens when you interact with everything, and everything should be reactive. And so the design process and the code process, everything when you design it in 3D takes much more time. And don't expect it to be as easy as in Figma.
Right.
I wrote down, and I'm learning something new, so I can't know how long things should take. So that's also important for adjusting your expectations. And Unity and development in general is absolutely not comparable to Figma. I already said it's much more to
Stonehenge,
manage.
we have seen big risk. I've seen people getting stuck in 2D, thinking things work, then move it forward, and it doesn't work. Get to 2D as early as possible.
You name it. Yeah.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
And I think that's also one of the things that we really want to encourage people to start exploring now that Shapes is on Quest. You can just put it on, invite people, and start dealing with those problems in real time together. So I think that is without having the 3D skills, right? And then at some point you will go in Unity, you will go in there, because that's where the pipeline goes. But at least you can agree, you can have an understanding, is this going to work, right?
And also I feel like ShapesXR is also a gift for the UI UX design community, because it gives us a very low barrier entry into 3D. And just jump on it, try it out, and you will it feels a bit like Figma.
It does. Some people say that it's like Figma for VR. It's like, okay, well, we didn't call it like that, but if you no, indeed. Look, guys, we do have we if you guys have any other questions, we're gonna say 5 more minutes. We don't want to there's still quite a lot of people listening, but it's I think also to keep it sharp as much as possible. If you have any other questions, please, Guy. Simon, is there something else that you would like to add on everything you have?
Actually, I got 10 minutes to talk. I don't know if you want to hear all that, but just cut me and say we make a stop. And so the third thing, when you feel like you're in a deep hole of troubleshooting, keep calm and appreciate your small steps. That's very important. And do small experiments, because at the beginning, everything feels very big and feels too hard. But actually, when you know where you have to adjust things, it's getting easier and easier and faster and faster. And so that's very important. Appreciate your small steps and don't be too, strict, precious with yourself? I don't know. What's the right word?
Right, don't be too hard on yourself.
Too hard on yourself, right? It's a building block always, and every mistake is a learning and part of this huge knowledge wall. And this wall is getting more and more stable with each building block. And and the most important in all this time when you are feeling depressed is try to have fun and try to explore things that gives you fun, because this keeps your motivation high and reminds you of why you are doing all that in hard times. Because actually at the end, when you know how to manage this tool, it's a nice fun box. It's a nice, you feel like I said in the beginning, the limit is your imagination. And with XR, you can do so much cool stuff in terms of interaction design and designing your space, and things interact with each other. You know how game design looks like.
I mean, that's why I love this. That's why I love, because it's the fact that it gives you superpower in a way, right? So that's
and be absolutely ready to fail, because you will, with this process, you will train your failure and resilience muscles. And trial and error will be part of your daily basis as beginner. So see problems as a challenge, and the challenge you're going to solve. And basically everyone has his own path. So find your own path that matches your skill set, because everyone has a different background. Get rid of the thought that there's one optimal way to learn Unity or whatever. Just follow your passion, follow your what keeps you attracted on. Or yeah, I will also share a list of resources for with nice tutorials. But I also went from one tutorial to another, very fragmented, just to solve my problem at the moment. And it's good to have one experiment, one vision that you are following with a lot of small experiments. And what's also very important, I had to learn, is that this industry is innovating and changing literally every day. And docs, tutorials get outdated, and it's not like print design. So try to be friends with change. You will always stumble over documentations, tutorials where things seems not matching your current version. And so most of the times, principles behind any function or whatever are still the same. So try to emphasize with the developer behind it and be curious and try to do the transfer so you will get it to work at the end. Yeah, most of the work is actually learning where you find the right tools. So where you have to adjust things in Unity. It's not so much complex coding functions for prototyping, and yeah, and with prototyping, it just has to work. It doesn't matter how, and yeah, there are always several parts to reach your goal. And yeah, and like I already also said, don't expect in the beginning to write expert code. I had always this bad feeling that my code looks shitty, but at the end, when I look back, also this code works. And when you clean it a bit up, yeah, it's logic and it makes sense. And yeah, at the beginning,
And
it will
what
be
is the purpose, right? Is it the purpose to build a final product? No, if it's not, you need to kind of
right,
like set
right,
expectation. How
right.
deep you want to go into that
Yeah,
refinement, because it also takes much more
yeah,
time. Does it make sense to
yeah,
build clean code if you're not even
yeah.
sure if something is gonna work in the first place?
And it's a process. So you will learn, you will get better and more efficient. And yeah, first of all, you have to get familiar with the environment and overcome the barriers, especially your fears of coding, because that's the biggest uh, barrier at the beginning to overcome. And coding is actually so logic. That's a nice thing about coding. It's logic and makes sense, and it's always a little challenge, but that's also the what's tickling a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for some, I can imagine for some
Yeah.
it's not that tickling. That is true.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Simon, I would say that there is a lot more,
Okay.
right? So, and I think
Okay.
it's a good
Last
moment.
words.
You go ahead.
Last words. Finally, my final words are, yeah, stay curious, disrespect the supposed impossible, prove what is possible, and make your individual experience, and get rid of your barriers. If you want something enough, you will get it in a way or another. And yeah, follow and
Absolutely.
develop your passion.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. So, Simon, thank you so much for being with us today, for sharing your knowledge, and literally, right, as we said, people that subscribe to the webinar, I'm gonna send an email to everybody with your
yeah,
a link to your Telegram so that people can join. And indeed, uh, stay tuned with us, stay tuned with the team at Vori, with Simon, because we always do cool stuff, and we always like to share something that goes beyond our own little project, our own little software. It's about getting the community bigger. It's about getting the excitement, sharing what we have learned, sharing what we're building, so that other people can benefit. That is really our
right,
driver, and same thing for Simon, absolutely. So thank you,
right.
everybody. Simon, thanks for being with us. It was a pleasure.
I see you then in the Telegram chat. And yeah, start with Unity today and with ShapesXR.
Thank you very much. Bye bye,
Right.
guys. Bye,
Goodbye.
everybody.
It was a pleasure.